good progression in Gambit Gaming so far when it comes to drafting, when it comes to gameplay, and most importantly when it comes to farm prioritization. Yesterday, and I actually talked to Forgiven a little bit about it earlier, I was like, Forgiven, are you ill or something? You bounced 2 waves to Cabochard. And he said, well, yes, that's the best thing to do. And ROCCAT, they watched that same game, ban on Fizz, ban on Sivir, targeting the good picks from Gambit so far.
Gambit side, Kalista banned away. We know that Corki now becomes one of those valuable picks. We'll see if it is picked up. Gambit Gaming on the blue side could first pick it away. Varus has been banned against Nukeduck there. And now the Victor as well.
Yeah, I just want to see where Janna ranks on the priority list for Gambit and ROCCAT so far.
No supports banned yet.
Will we see the rise of the Janna come out? Like Fnatic prioritized her a little bit more. We saw Gambit eventually picking it up on one of the later rotations in their pick order to facilitate that poke comp they were running.
GoSu's played a lot of different supports this split already, though. I mean, just taking a look down the board, you got to go look at the Taric a couple of times. It's always a possibility.
Yeah, that doesn't count.
Not as a support?
Taric doesn't count. I'm still not convinced.
All
One
right.
single target stun is all you have.
How about his Bard? Is his Bard good?
It actually wasn't. But his Janna was good.
There we go. It looks like the Jayce is what they want to take away first, so.
Yeah, they banned out Varus. They banned out Varus, which is one of the AD poke champions right now that have a very, very high regard in the mid lane, and then they obviously pick up the Jayce, the counterpart. The only poke champion left for mid lane is the AP Kog'Maw and of course Runeglaive Ezreal, but as we saw earlier in the game, or in the last game rather, Runeglaive Ezreal has a very weak early game.
So this makes a lot of sense, the Corki being that quick pickup, not to give that over to Gambit now that the Jayce has already been given over, and of course, top tier jungle pick, Rek'Sai leaves Gragas available for Diamondprox unless he wants to do something crazy.
Yeah, this opens up ROCCAT for a multitude of compositions. Rek'Sai fits everything, honestly, and is perhaps rated slightly higher than Gragas at the very moment. Same time, Corki can go bottom, do okay in most matchups, and then be left to farm out. It's also a champion that Forgiven was playing a lot, so they took away the Sivir, they took away the Corki, and he might be stuck with the Kalista ban on a lower tier AD carry, and he might resort back to his Caitlyn instead of the Lucian that he used to fall back to. But Lucian so far in the LCS has a tremendously low win rate.
Definitely pretty low on the list there. We'll see if Gambit do want to take up an AD carry. Now, I don't think they necessarily need to, especially since there's still a very valuable support pickup. The Alistar is locked in for GoSu Pepper.
Okay. Interesting. They don't want to go for the disengaged Janna. Pepper feels a little more comfortable on the Alistar. See, that means Gambit is probably just going for a single poke issue. I think Janna really, really thrives and shines when you have double poke with another squishy carry in the top lane. Gambit can just play a normal composition that just happens to have one poke mid lane or two. I mean, we don't have to full on tunnel in that
I've seen
regard.
a couple of teams doing that too, just going for the one poke threat with the rest of it a little bit more normal.
Honestly, I would like Braum here for ROCCAT. We saw Hylissang do it in quite a similar draft already. Braum is good into the Alistar. He blocks all the Jayce damage. And he can just protect the Corki. The lane is alright as well because Corki can Valkyrie offensively and can jump after him if you so choose. Azir is still up as well, so that will likely be the pick in the mid lane. Honestly, top tier mid laner. And I'm surprised he actually falls so low with Jayce rising up in
Well, it's one of Nukeduck's favorites too.
Yeah.
He had taken a bit of a break to play the Varus a little bit more, but of course with that banned away, it's an option for him to go back to the traditional setup, and he does. The Nautilus is also locked in, so we most likely won't be seeing Braum. But remember, there's always that possibility of top Nautilus.
It's actually, Cabochard is one of the people I could see play top lane Nautilus, but I think it's a little early for Europe. I haven't seen or heard anybody playing it so far. We have that targeted lockdown though on the Jayce. He can never outrun that, he can never escape. Azir is poked to an extent, but he's a very good siege champion because he can put up the soldiers one by one in the same fashion that Orianna can put down her ball and then move it forward, but the better disengage coming out of the Azir. So Azir and Corki, they hit that mid-game spike and they start grouping up. They can take down towers, especially if Gambit ends up being a little short-ranged. Obviously, the wave clear on Gragas and Jayce is going to prevent that, but I'm just looking at Forgiven right now. What is he going to play?
Might be the Ezreal. Does look like they're thinking about that one. Is that locked in? Yeah.
It is locked in, so there's the slight possibility of Jayce top Ezreal mid and another AD carry for Forgiven, but unlikely. Shen locked in, and Gambit's composition has been rounded out. Double poke with a tank top laner, 2 damage threats, both of which are AD. Unless Forgiven's going for fancy AP shenanigans in the bot lane, which I doubt, so this will mean that ROCCAT can, honestly, itemize very efficiently, and we saw what it did to SK Gaming last game when Giants started stacking up that armor on the Rek'Sai. This might actually prompt a decent Maokai pick. This is one of the situations where I can actually agree with him, because if you can get an early Frozen Heart, who is going to stop this Maokai?
I'm having a hard time coming up with an answer to that question, Krepo. I think that this would be a nice way to round it out. Absolutely. A lot of tank stats on both teams, really. But the siege from ROCCAT mid-game, that Trinity Force power spike for the Corki, I feel like that's going to be the hairy moment for Gambit.
Yeah, they definitely need to hit that hard, because how we're talking about Gambit only has 2 damage threats and 2 carries, really. ROCCAT has the same thing with Corki. Even being a champion that doesn't scale that well off additional items. Triforce hits, and it's the best power spike he has in the entire game, because his additional item will scale okay, but then he's mixing and matching different items that don't really work all that well together. He is 50% magic damage too. Azir is full 100% magic damage. Maokai is magic damage. Nautilus as a support is magic damage. So if Gambit can actually pick up that ROCCAT, something we've seen many teams in Europe fail to do so, then we could actually see a very interesting game here. Slow. A lot of tankiness. Back to season, well, this season, but back to spring split.
Like the earlier season. Both teams have an option to itemize against each other, and yeah, ROCCAT might want to put Jankos a little bit more on the attack damage focus pass. It's only going to be a lot, but we have seen a lot of Cinderhole Rek'Sai, and I feel like this is one of those arguments for Warriors for sure.
You could argue for it, but I think he's probably just going to go tanky, honestly, because it's so easy. If he can stack HP with that Cinderhole, then get the Randu and stack that armor, make it so hard for these 80 carries, both in the mid and the bot lane, to get through to him, then he's such a prime position to carry this game.
True. It's very true. And Jankos has been very involved early on. We'll see if it's enough to take his team a win here today. Tweet at LL Esports with hashtag ROC win if you think that's the case, or GMB win if otherwise. We'll rock at 2-0 Gambit in this summer split. About to find it out. We're about to leave it all on the Rift. Gambit Gaming need this win. ROCCAT definitely want this win. Let's see who comes up with it as we load up.
Let's see if anybody has been watching Copenhagen Wolves yesterday, where they camped in a bush and predicted one of those invades. Taking a look at the lanes real quick. Honestly, Maokai, the way Europe lane swaps as a whole, Maokais tend to fall behind. And the way ROCCAT has been playing lately with more emphasis on Steve, I doubt they actually want to initiate a lane swap themselves. It is melee support against ranged AD carry, safety of farm on Ezreal, mediocre poke on Corki. So these matchups should be bang on even in the bot lane. Slight damage edge on the Nautilus, but obviously the sustain edge on the Alistar. So same in the mid lane, slow damage, and nobody's gonna all-in each other in the Azir Jayce matchup. So everything will boil down to these junglers. Jankos on one side and Diamondprox on the other. Diamondprox is a shade of his former self. Let's see how they can influence the game here.
Yeah, he has definitely been a big question mark on Gambit's team for the last several weeks, indeed. We'll have to see if he does get himself back to form. Gambit, they found a couple of wins. They definitely were able to beat down those Wolves yesterday, but still not without a few mistakes.
So ROCCAT tried to avoid those deep wards by sneaking past them before they were placed and hide at their turret. Scouted out by Cabochard though, so now both teams know that they know that they know. So the mind games can start beginning. Who's gonna base, who's gonna predict it?
Who knows?
Who knows, indeed.
We have to go all the way back to week 1 if we want to take a look at when these two teams last met on the Rift. That of course was a win for ROCCAT, who were looking just a little bit stronger at the very beginning. Gambit were having some serious issues in week number 1.
Yeah, this was Gambit without practice, without internet in the gaming house. Honestly, their own fault. If you fault them for it, then both teams are setting up for a camp. This happens with the knowledge of Gambit, and ROCCAT don't know what the lanes are going to look like so far, it seems.
Not quite yet, so... Does look like we're in for standard lanes, however, unless Gambit are making a quick dash up to the top.
Yeah, and GoSu Pepper started the heal on the Alistar, so he's getting ready for a fairly passive laning phase. We might see, or allow them to be pushed back and just farm safely on their turret. Gambit has been playing with less emphasis on the bot lane lately. Just leave Forgiven to his own merit and have him tie farm and then come out as a utility-based resource in the mid-game for Gambit.
Yeah, now both the top laners are going to take their teleport route up as they were a little bit busy in the double jungle scenario. It will be all about for ROCCAT making sure Steve doesn't get behind. They have been definitely helping him out a lot more lately, focusing on him as it were. And we've talked about how Maokai's in Europe in particular have been in some trouble when they can't get ahead. But Gambit, are they going to put their focus on this?
No, I think this is the best matchup it could go for ROCCAT here. Having Steve have that slow lane against the Shen. Neither side is going to, force each other out of lane early, I feel, without any interruption of the junglers. In addition to that, Steve he will have to itemize full AD base, so he'll have to get armor. Jankos, he's lurking around the mid lane.
Spending some time on Betsy. In he goes, gets the knock up. Queen's Wrath gets knocked away by the hammer. Nukeduck doesn't have enough damage to keep taking him down. Diamondprox was a little bit preoccupied. He had Crab on his mind.
So that's Betsy down a flash. Important. Will we see Jankos return in the next 5 minutes to get that first blood? And go back now to the point I was making. Gragas is lurking on the left side, so they're trying to figure out where Jankos went. He watered his Wraiths, indicating that he's on the right side of the map. So now Gambit will have to play passive in the bot lane.
And these two mid laners, definitely a little bit more comfortable. The Jayce is a newer thing for Betsy, but it has been all across the league, whereas Nukeduck's Azir has definitely had a few ups and downs. But in that one game, Betsy had as Jayce seriously high amount of kill participation, just sending the shock blast left and right, able to help his team out quite a lot.
Nukeduck doing well with that Azir, 32 KDA.
That's pretty massive.
That is big.
Across 3 games.
Yeah.
Keep that up.
Very consistent, very few deaths. Now, yeah, the things you're gonna watch out for in this early game is any jungle interaction in the top lane, to see how that CS differential progresses, and then obviously the return gank on Betsy, and if Nukeduck is gonna manipulate the waves to force Betsy to overextend for CS or not. Diamondprox is level 4, or level 3 here, Jankos is level 3. Bot lanes will be bang on even, plus minus 5 CS at best, I think. Very even matchup here. Nobody can really all in each other without the help of the junglers. But I just want to touch on that point where Steve, he has the ability to itemize pure armor against Betsy and Forgiven. Whereas Cabochard, he has to deal with more magic damage threats. In generally, in the league historically, building magic resistance is slightly less efficient than it is to build armor, I feel. It's easier to stack a lot of armor and make it work, especially because later in the game you have Thornmail that comes in that can use that armor value to bounce back to you.
You certainly can. Now Steve will take a little bit of damage here from Cabochard, but as you mentioned, without jungle intervention, this is really a well and true farm fest. And you can talk about the bot lane being the same way when an Ezreal is in play. It doesn't matter what lane he's in or what he's building, it's probably going to be a farm lane for a while. I really want to keep my eye on the middle because I feel like Nukeduck has started to step up once again into that carry role that everyone predicted he was going to be. But for now, we'll have to talk about the bottom as Vander immediately flashes and Dredgelines his way away. We'll be able to avoid the gank from Diamondprox.
I like what Pepper did there. He, instead of knocking Vander back into the lane, he knocked him sideways so Diamondprox could connect the body slam. And that's an instance you want to connect last. When Dredgeline comes out for Nautilus, you want to hit him right after he connects with the wall, because then you break up the tether particle where he goes towards the wall. If you hit him first and then he hits the wall, he'll drag himself to safety. So if Diamondprox came maybe half a second later, he could have cancelled that Dredgeline, I feel, and they could have killed Vander. So very, very close. And they got his flash, and that's the most important part. They will need a return gank though. Ganking very often at the highest level is a 2-step process. Initially you go and you burn the summoner spells, and then you return, take the kill, and get an objective.
Well, now that the top laners have hit level 6, teleports, and of course Stand United come into play for Gambit Gaming. If they do want to start one off like that, so far they have been the aggressors, but they have little to show for it for the moment. Jankos has been a little bit more occupied in the mid. There's the teleport coming in for Cabo, but he's got another one in his back pocket. Jankos will be the one who runs into the ward. Cabochard has full vision of what's going on.
Yeah, Steve up a couple CS. There's obviously some creeps under Cabochard's tower, but he gets the first base, and that's obviously worth perhaps the 1 or 2 creeps you lose in that trade. He bases right now. Teleports will be instrumental. I feel neither lane will win 1v1, 2v2. We'll see junglers and teleports. Here we go.
Emperor's Divide. He manages to get the shuffle off. Betsy on the wrong side. Slow march, and the Sand Soldiers pick it up for first blood.
Shurima comes out. Nukeduck with the kill. This is the follow-up. This is what we've been talking about earlier. First you take a summoner spell, then you return. Having to deal with Gap Closer 1, which is a tunnel on Jankos, then potential flash, and the Gap Closer from Azir makes it so hard to play Jayce in this lane. So Betsy kind of needed Diamondprox's help, because look at this flash. It's up in like 20 seconds. If he just held on a little longer, had Diamondprox shadowed that lane, he could have potentially survived. Now he gives it first blood.
Will definitely be a boon to Nukeduck. He's pretty happy with that right now. And you see Steve getting taunted up a little bit by Cabochard, waves pushing in. But I really just think the mid lane is where this is going to keep happening time and time again. Betsy should have known that was coming.
Yeah, he should have known that he should play a little careful. He could have asked for help from Diamondprox, and as well, he has a Shen on his team. He has Stand United. So if you play careful, knowing that you have a Shen, you play a little backwards, and you ask for help from your jungle, you should be able to survive those 30 seconds, because it's not worth losing this much. If you could drop 10 CS, 15 CS, that's alright. Just don't give over that kill. Nukeduck didn't have to use his heal, his flash. ROCCAT 1,000 golden lead right now.
Yeah, not only did he give up that kill, he did give up about 10 CS on top of it. Everything else is a little bit more even across the board. Forgiven doing his best to outfarm MrRallez on that Ezreal now. Jankos heads down. This ain't no farm alarm though. He's going to be seeing the cow around the side. Pings are starting to fly. Jankos and Nukeduck starting to look if they might want to push GoSu Pepper out of here. They will.
Yeah, a lot of zone control on ROCCAT's lineup, especially with that Maokai, that Azir in these fights around these objectives. Hard for Gambit to get in there. They want to poke down with Forgiven, with Betsy. Forgiven not opting for any tier on the Ezreal, no full blue build. He wants to match that Triforce for Triforce Spike with the Corki, stay even, so they don't lose tempo, don't lose aggression in the mid game.
It's on pace to do it a little bit ahead of time too. Forgiven, this is a guy who was famed for being able to CS with the best of them, as well as keep himself alive and safe on the Ezreal. Should definitely be an easy feat for him, I would suppose. Now, Dragon looking like it's going to be started up by ROCCAT, while Diamondprox and Betsy are busy with the opposing blue buff. Take a look at those averages. This is way before time for ROCCAT, and they will secure #1.
Yeah, ROCCAT secured the first Dragon right here. 900 gold, 800 gold in the lead. In addition, extra objectives. So they're snowballing that pressure they have. That first few ganks from Jankos, previously called the First Blood King, obviously coming through, and
First assist king.
First assist king. The king of assists. True support. First of his name. ROCCAT Jankos.
Protector of the team. Nukeduck will get himself a blue buff off of all of that. Continues to keep on farming and pushing away. So far, Gambit's aggression has not been able to find any results other than a blue buff here or there.
Yeah, Shen on both AD carries. Poke, 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 poke. Melee range supports, which have a hard time going all in long range poke kind of compositions. Gambit, however, have been pushing the bot lane.
They have been definitely doing that, and that should open an opportunity for maybe Jankos to answer on the bottom, but it's so hard to gank an Ezreal, so hard to gank into an Alistar, and he has definitely been spending his time better in that mid side. Steve now has a wave to contend with on the top, but he's perfectly happy with this. He says he's getting all the time in the world to get up to that late game Maokai.
And honestly, both AD carries sticking to their strengths. We always praise MrRallez, or many people praise MrRallez about his team fight positioning, but Forgiven going back to his traditional SK spring split style where he pushes up and he just pokes you on a tower and gets small advantages, and he gets his CS first. You see GoSu Pepper go in here, combo. Forgiven gets his CS first, and then he challenges you on your CS. And then you have to perform under pressure to go even at best, because Forgiven rarely misses uncontested CS. It's not in spring split.
It's definitely indicated by that differential right now, about 25 or so. Let's take a look.
Tear of the Goddess 200 right now.
Stacking up.
The reserves indicate, so he's still well off. You see that Tear very early in the game still, but
he's got his jungler nearby though.
And that's mostly because Nukeduck is keeping him at bay, so he has to CS in their tower, so he has less time to do those repetitive Qs on those minions.
GoSu Pepper a little bit low here, but he should be able to sustain up. Yeah, here's a Stand United now in the mid on Betsy, but that was a little bit late as we saw the Emperor's Divide had already started to wear off. In comes ROCCAT Vander onto Forgiven. He's Arcane shifted his way away, and he'll back to base for now. Yeah,
but this just gives Steve more breathing room, and this is... Maokai is only charging up very well right now. He wants to build that Righteous Glory first, and then he's probably going straight for the Frozen Heart, I would imagine. And then it will be hard to deal with him, because so far Maokai has been played a lot by these lower tier teams as a comfort pick. Hasn't been successful at all. He's been picked once by the top 3 teams. I think this is 18th time by now for this top, or the bottom 7 teams right now. But ROCCAT is looking to make it work.
See if they can make this dive work. Cabochard realizes Jankos is there now. They are going to turn their attention to him, but he's already gone instead. They will just be able to deny the wave, but they can't deny it necessarily from Forgiven. Sends a true shot barrage up that way. Tower falls nonetheless.
Yep, first tower of the game. ROCCAT side, they had the first dragon of the game, first kill of the game. Control the game.
Might be #2. No, he's going to be able to dash his way to safety and into the arms of his team. Return some fire. The order is given, and the fight is
teleported behind too.
Teleport in the flank. Betsy realizes he's got to dodge Steve. Is he going to be able to go in? He targets out Diamondprox under the tower. Betsy now is being fired on, but he's already able to get away. Cabochard tries to bait and taunt Steve, but he won't be able to get it. Cabochard now in. GoSu Pepper gets pinballed into the team, and Vander gets the kill. A tower to ROCCAT as well.
Yeah, Betsy makes it out of there with a sliver of HP left, but then Nukeduck comes in, still has his ultimate. Controlled aggression from ROCCAT here. Good respect flash from Steve, and honestly, he's been getting better and better every week so far. The first few performances for ROCCAT, they were shaky. He wasn't used to repetitive ganks. They were beating up on the new guy. Then he had this surge where he had Echo, where he played twice. It was last week or 2 weeks ago, I believe. And ever since I've seen ROCCAT play a more controlled style, more Steve-oriented. They didn't leave him hanging, didn't leave him to dry. They make sure he got into the early and mid game, and he's returning that favor to his teammates, and so far solid.
You heard it here. Treat your top laner right, because he will help you later on in the game. Steve has been perfectly happy right now.
It's an investment for the future.
Cabochard has not needed too much help himself, as he's been perfectly fine up here, but I feel like the later the game goes, you're definitely going to want to have that Maokai on your team. The Shen is good too, but Gambit have not been able to execute his utilities to the fullest to really contest objectives around this map. ROCCAT has had the edge in this early game.
Okay, looks like I was wrong about the Frozen Heart. Steve is building for the split push. He wants that magic resistance to deal with the Shen Vorpal Blades. Be at low damage, they come in rapid succession. So he wants to keep Cabochard down, a strategy often used against Gambit. Could argue that he could just try to do that without, honestly, that magic resistance.
Diamondprox wants to find
Ooh, pinball.
He will, there we go. He's gonna burrow away though. Nukeduck and Vander are here. Emperor's Divide, in comes the true shot barrage. Gambit still marching forward, but they can't find the kill.
Good Emperor's Divide by Nukeduck. If the Shen Town came out or not, they would have been prevented anyways, because you can't get over that wall. Good defensive play by ROCCAT. And I just want to touch on that item build even more from Steve. He wants the magic resistance, I guess, to deal with the Sunfire cave that could potentially come out from Cabochard later, or just the repetitive magic damage. I feel like he could straight up build for teamfights and just, you know, shut down Betsy, and for giving this fight, just add even more zone control to it.
And we saw that earlier on when they went for the mid lane tower dive. They were able to do just that, lock down the target, force a counter engage, I would suppose, from Gambit, and then they were able to get at least one, then the tower. However, Gambit, they do pick up one tower finally for themselves in the mid lane there, while MrRallez was getting busy on the bottom side. Pepper will be there. The tower is also very low. ROCCAT still controlling this one. Dragon is live. Let's see if they decide to go for it anytime soon.
Yeah, 3,000 gold ahead at 50 minutes is big. Let's not forget that. 2 kills, 2 towers, 1 dragon. And as you just said, the second one live. So ROCCAT honestly playing it by the book. Nukeduck, I've called him defensive in the past. I felt like he played with low pressure, but this game, it was a smart kind of defensive. He worked together with Jankos, got Betsy's flash, then Jankos returned, killed Betsy, then forced Cabochard's ulti back to the mid lane. So he's been using controlled aggression to make small advantages, chip away at the armor from Gambit, and then eventually get an objective. 2 towers, 2 dragons, 2 kills. Triple twos.
Across the way, slow advantages, calmly pushing their lead ever so gently forward against Gambit. Ticking timer in the form of Nukeduck in the middle. He's got himself a needlessly large rod on top of that Morellonomicon.
Shurima doesn't need boots. We shuffle our way out. He says, who needs boots when you can get AP?
It's very true. Good trade-off so far for him. He hasn't been punished for it in any way, shape, or form, even though they've tried.
He picked it up right now, though.
Yeah, there he goes. Okay, so
straight to the sock shoes. He doesn't want those rags.
Those are for
tier 1
peasants.
with peasants. I get my shiny sock shoes.
It's going to start hurting even more now. Penetration. Not too many defensive items across the board outside of Cabochard, who's really itemizing that magic resist. Of course, as we mentioned, champion selection, a whole heaping helping of magic damage on the ROCCAT side.
So yeah, relatively late mana muni means that your tier scaling is slowed down on Jayce right here, whereas he is far away from his power spike, whereas Nukeduck, he's building very efficiently, you know, CDR early, such a good stat, raw AP, and then combined with flat penetration, not the percent penetration you get from the Void Staff, just a flat, because everybody's so low on magic resistance right now. There's no Aegis just yet. So good item builds by ROCCAT. They work with their lead so well. 2.4k gold ahead right now.
They keep pushing it, and you know, as outside of making a big mistake there, it just seems to be in their control, and we'll have to see if Gambit has a way to get back into this one. They have some scaling on their side. We'll see if GoSu could be caught here. Looks like he's going to go in with the Unbreakable Will is on. MrRallez back, but just outside of the range of the True Shot barrage. No one's going to die today. Both supports took a big battering. Diamondprox finds Jankos in his jungle. Means Wrath takes a bite out of him as well. Diamond is going to have to escape over the Drake pit.
Steve canceled that Shen ultimate in the top lane, I believe, and they're now fighting, which will be probably a fight for the centuries. I don't think anybody's going to go down in that Shen Maokai matchup, so we don't even have to watch that. And honestly, this is one of the few ways to engage for Gambit. That pulverized flash combo into knockback is one of the few openings they can create, and ROCCAT thwarted that beautifully. Now they can just keep playing around Nukeduck, honestly. He is the driving factor for your team. His zone control should be enough to take the game home.
And the vision that they're able to establish in that river means anything Betsy tries to do, anything really Diamondprox tries to do is effectively thwarted. You do take a difference, or take a look at these two AD carries, that both sitting on the Trinity Force now. We mentioned this was going to be the time that we thought they might be trying to fight, but ROCCAT are happy to just slowly extend this lead. Gambit have to work fast if they want to reverse this trend.
Yeah, try for spike, but absolutely nothing happening in this game so far. Both teams seem content with just clearing waves, both sides, finding an opening somehow. Instead of being proactive, they're honestly just exploiting positional mistakes, small mistakes, and chipping away. However, with ROCCAT on 2 dragons, they're fine to do so.
For ROCCAT, they have had a problem in the past with just not necessarily having a good strategy, getting rolled over by better teams that were more proactive. But now they're playing defensively. Still, they're letting their opponents make the first moves, counteracting it, doing it well. Nonetheless, I feel like letting these games go long, it tends to make them a little bit predictable, and moving forward, they may win this game, yes. They may still beat out a lot of opponents in the lower tiers of the play, but if they make it into the playoffs and they don't change their style, they don't show that much versatility, this can be a problem for them.
I mean, they have shown at least 2 styles so far. One with the carry top laners of Echo on Steve, but they've recently resorted back to it. I believe second Maokai pick this week, and it worked yesterday, whereas, in my opinion, it shouldn't have worked. This time I can see it more. I feel Maokai is an okay pick if you pick it later in your rotation and you can fit it into like a double threat composition, because it obviously gets so tanky that it's so hard to deal with by one of these threats. But so far, ROCCAT's been slow but controlled. Honestly, Gambit hasn't been making any moves themselves, so then you can leave the opportunity to Gambit because they're not going to take it. They've been content just farming. They're waiting for Jayce to scale, for Ezreal to farm up, but he's in a strike force spike, but absolutely nothing is happening.
They're going to pretty much just let the slow push happen as it may, but Steve has got to be careful as Diamondprox is there. Still, Diamond hasn't really been able to get that much done on this Gragas. He's attempted a couple of ganks, but they've all pretty much fallen flat.
Honestly, Diamondprox hasn't been able to get anything done so far this season. Has done one of the worst kill participation stats in the league-wide, whereas all the junglers are top 9 in the European LCS when it comes to kill participation. The entire league, Diamondprox ranks 37 in that list, so he's all the way down.
He's at 100% kill participation now, though. That's all that matters.
Yes, he does. Here we see. Oh, he dodges the.
Ooh, Steve! Now you see him, now you don't.
Ring around the rosy. I like that move. This is why we saw Jankos actually do something differently. When Jankos was ganking with Gragas, he walked forward to the Maokai, stepped backwards out of range, and then initiates a body slam from out of Maokai range to avoid that from happening. This is one interaction you always have to be careful of when you gank a Maokai. You know when you get in proximity, he will press W. So he can dodge so many projectiles. You can even dodge Cardus ulti if you time it right, because you can become untargetable.
Today I learned.
Practice that. Twisted advance, kids. And Gambit getting their second tower, albeit just a fake one.
Doesn't add to the score anymore.
Doesn't add anymore. No more fantasy.
Dragon is live yet again. ROCCAT are going to let this one sit. Nukeduck does take a pretty big shock blast, but...
Ooh, that's big.
Yeah, it's going to start hurting. But Betsy's out of mana right now. He can't get in here and do a whole lot more. If ROCCAT want this Dragon, they should be able to muscle their way in and take it. There's one more shock blast, but again, Betsy just keeps on running low.
Yeah, ROCCAT trying to make Gambit cry. They're trying to use those tiers to stack their tiers themselves because, honestly, prime position for ROCCAT right now. Trying to find an opening. ROCCAT have more what they call zone control. Put up the soldiers, have the poke from Corki and some of the hard engage, like the Twisted Advance combined with the Righteous Glory coming in. Gambit, they have more poke. They just want to slowly force people out by poking. And yeah, I want to find an opening with Cabochard, but if there's no wards behind, it's going to get very hard to flank.
Yeah, it'll be really, really difficult for them to really get a whole lot done, and they're relying so much on Betsy. He's still sitting on his Manamune. The Muramana still is about 50 or 60 stacks away from completing. This is pretty late for them.
Yeah, but look at what that poke did against Jankos. 15% HP because he's already building that Randuin's Omen, and he actually built Cinderhulk too, so he's well on his way to become a mega tank, speccing into the armor. Steve, he took that little side route by going magic resistance because he wanted to deal with the Balmy Cinder, and later on the Sunfire Cape, and then just the Vorpal Blade spam from the Shen, but now he can spec full into armor. Maokai scales so well with tankiness, especially against his double threat composition, and things are looking good for ROCCAT.
Definitely looking good. Gambit not really finding any in whatsoever on this map right now as they just kind of run around, seemingly like chickens with their heads cut off, trying to find ROCCAT anywhere with their pants down, but there's no opening that they have at the moment. ROCCAT are taking the slow path to victory yet again.
We see GoSu Pepper with 2 Ruby Crystals. As he's flanking about, might want to go for a flash engage here.
I try it. Dragon's still at half health, though. Diamondprox waiting in the wings around the side.
Teleport 1, teleport 2.
About to bail out. In comes the true shot. Starting the fight. MrRallez was the target. GoSu Pepper focused out. Dragon still in the picture as Jankos being chased around. Spited down, and Betsy will pick him off. Meanwhile, the rest of ROCCAT are scattered to the winds. This might have been Gambit setting the dangerous trap. Steve tanking the front line, throws in the sapling. Gambit are battered and bruised themselves, even though Jankos is down.
These fights are so incredibly slow.
It's all the tanks. They just keep
back to spring split.
Each other.
Back to spring split we go. Slow and steady.
Tank meta is not dead yet.
Slow and steady bores the crowd. Slow and steady wins the race.
I wanna touch on this Maokai again. You talked about it a little bit ago, and why you said yesterday why you didn't necessarily like that. I know you had a bit of a Twitter conversation with Kelsey about that one. I guess we'll have to talk in a minute about it since Cabochard's being focused out by Steve. Into the fight, flash for flash. Steve, can he get in there? Jankos, they just really want to pick this fight. GoSu Pepper goes for the headbutt, but he'll give himself up. And a tower falls on the bottom courtesy of the minions. ROCCAT will find the revenge.
GoSu Pepper throws himself in there, sacrifices himself for his team, but Gambit honestly maybe could have turned around and started that dragon, try and get it, but going back for more poke. Incredibly slow and zone control. Diamondprox here with the piggyback Shen.
Oh, the dragon, once again, we've seen it before.
Triple taunt.
He is taunted, he is down. Diamondprox throws the Gatorade at him and secures up the dragon. This is all Gambit right now. Steve, Nukeduck, Emperor's Divide pushes them all back, but still, Betsy coming up with more. A double kill, and they're gonna get the ace. Nicely done for Gambit Gaming.
Ace for Gambit. What seemed to be a very slow fight, but then honestly, Diamondprox puts his foot on the pedal. He says, Cabochard to me, lands, and then the triple taunt. That shouldn't happen in these team fights, not without a good flash involved. And honestly, Cabochard, beautiful play right there.
Miraculous. 5 for none for Gambit Gaming. They secure the dragon, they keep it going. This time, they've turned their attention toward the Baron. This is about the time they actually managed to secure it, but not in the way we expected.
Yeah, ROCCAT, I felt like they sent their tanks forward too much and left their backline exposed in these fights. Whereas they can just slowly play around and keep playing. I felt like Nukeduck felt too threatened in these fights. He got zoned out. MrRallez has been focused twice, two times in a row. Let's watch that again. Keep your eyes here on Diamondprox. Cabochard comes in. Does he taunt flash? Because he hits 3 people. Taunt? Yeah. It's all the way.
Crucially, MrRallez.
To MrRallez. Then MrRallez gets dunked on by Diamondprox. 473 HP on the dragon. Thank you very much. Diamondprox picks it up too. Another taunt from Cabochard. Nukeduck. Miscommunication by ROCCAT here. Vander comes back in. Steve flashed for Forgiven, I believe. Went in and yeah, not enough damage. Ace.
Ouch. So Gambit make a very powerful statement there. It had been a very slow edge built up for ROCCAT, but that trend is completely reversed. Now we're 27 minutes in. 2,000 gold lead for Gambit. They've got their first dragon on the board, and they are playing with some confidence with a Baron buff at their backs.
Yeah, Baron buff, extra gold, and power spikes hit. That Manamune that you were talking about now has become a Muramana. It's in its final form. We have BF Sword, Brutalizer, Lost Whisper, so much armor penetration all of a sudden on Betsy. His poke is finally going to start to hurt. And ROCCAT, they need to buy themselves some time. They need to spec deep into that armor. And whereas we praise so much praise went to MrRallez for his positioning, he got caught out there in that fight. And if you run double threat and one of your threats go down, you immediately lose the fight. It's just too much.
That's too much for them to handle. You know, Gambit, it's funny because the last couple of weeks, they've definitely had some rough results, and their play has usually been aggress early, get themselves a lead, which they tried to do here. They just couldn't find an opening. But then they've given it up in a lot of their losses. It's been turned around on it. Admittedly, they've played teams like Fnatic, they've played teams like Origin, but against ROCCAT, they are definitely able to get a second wind here. And they are making a statement that they belong in the upper end of our bottom 7, as we've been calling it.
Yeah, and honestly, that second win is manifesting, especially in the form of Diamondprox. We talked about skill participation being low. No, 100% kill participation this game. He didn't get too much done in the early game, but he picked it back up, and he finished the Ages of the Legion. He recognized how he had to build against this ROCCAT lineup, and this is crucial. This is something we haven't seen too much in Europe. Honestly, one of the biggest itemization mistakes in Europe so far have been that lack of Aegis. People go too much towards Ratchet's glory. So far, he's been playing well. 2-0-4. He's doing his job.
It's very true. You don't necessarily need just run out the enemy team to beat them as fast. You don't have the Sivir on this time. You don't necessarily need to play it out that way. So extending that gold lead up to about 5,000. Steve could be in some trouble, zoned off this top tower. The tree sitting in the brush. Gambit will say, thank you very much. We will grab ourselves a tower here. Easy peasy. And ROCCAT still left scratching their heads, trying to come back from that big deficit that they dug themselves into at Dragon.
I believe this is 3 or 4 towers that Gambit just got off the back of that Baron, so pretty big. Massive, actually, gold swing here. They win that fight against ROCCAT at the Dragon. Ever so slightly. They go back to, and ROCCAT seems like they're winning. ROCCAT engages again, and then suddenly out of nowhere, you know, on the 5th day, look east over the mountain comes Cabochard going in. Lands triple town. Ace for Gambit, Baron for Gambit, 4 or 5 towers for Gambit, and suddenly they are now 5,000 gold in the lead.
Yeah, ROCCAT right now are in some serious danger. They tried to play the safe game even when they were ahead. Now that they're behind, they have much less breathing room to work with. What will they be able to do? Trying to push Gambit back. That becomes a question. How do they get back into this game that they so precariously built up a lead to?
They want to stall, stack armor. They got the Frozen Heart right now. Steve, he has the makings of a Thornmail. He could build that and just throw himself on one of these AD carries that just can't deal with him. They will literally kill themselves trying to deal with him. But then somehow that backline from ROCCAT needs to survive and somehow deal with these tanks, because Cabochard is pretty tanky, Diamondprox is pretty tanky, but they have enough base damages right now. As we Cabochard go for, see, he goes for the split push Shen with the Triforce, because he wants to have enough threat on the backline, and in the split push to actually force, hopefully, Steve out, or deal with the likes of MrRallez in teamfights. And MrRallez is forced to go for this infamous Triforce, Blade of the Ruin King build for Corki, so 2 items that don't synergize all that well.
30 seconds on this next Dragon, too. ROCCAT had been slowly building them up, but Gambit are the ones that are in a much better position to take this. You take a look at how the vision is shifted. Even if you cover the gold on your screen, you can go ahead and just see, hey, these guys are definitely the ones that are making the plays. In the early game, you wouldn't have been able to tell that.
And Gambit likes to just push out these waves and then group on a single tower, and so far it's been working. Now, without this Baron buff, the double wave clear from ROCCAT might be too much for them to do so, but they might just straight up go for a dive. But it's risky against so many tanky members.
Definitely is risky, and they're just being able to zone out time and time again. Diamondprox, that Gragas barrel, keeping them from checking in.
And he wants to threaten the flank. He wants to tell ROCCAT, guys, don't defend your tower too aggressively, because you'll get a barrel behind you, get knocked into my team. But I feel it's very hard for Gambit to open up this defensive posture from ROCCAT.
It is definitely hard to crack this, but the problem is Gambit are the ones who are forcing ROCCAT to dance to their tune. They tried it in the early game, and it I don't know what to say other than failed miserably, but this time, now that they've gotten ahead, they can keep up the pressure, they can keep ROCCAT from really getting anything back on this map except a little bit of farm, and now they can move around the sides, they can continue to 3-2, 3-1, 4-1, everything.
Yeah, they want to lock ROCCAT up under a tower, peel off Cabochard, let him push his side lane, and then rotate in between the lanes.
And shock.
Hopefully catch somebody off guard, and you need complete vision control to do that. And now while they defend mid, then Gambit can go back to top lane because they can keep rotating in between these towers. Steve's, he's had enough.
Yeah, but GoSu Pepper is the one who's caught up, realizing he's tanky enough, though they turn their attention to Steve to the skies. Steve, he's going to be taunted under his own tower. The rest of Gambit trying to finish a fight off. Steve will not go down, however.
Ooh.
The order is given, and the fight is over. No one down just yet.
I would have liked to see Nukeduck flash in and turn that wall around.
Wait a minute. Oh! Wouldn't have killed it, I don't think. But
nope. Look fancy though. This is not Pepinero. This is Forgiven. Different kind of Ezreal.
Very different kind of Ezreal. Steve gonna be spinning his teleport. They're taking
round 2.
They want to go in and find Betsy twisted, advance onto him, keeping him locked up. Jankos will flash. Betsy will flash as well, and he will get away.
Sloppy, sloppy, sloppy from ROCCAT. I feel Steve should have opened with his Q, held the twisted advance until the gate came out, and then Jankos, he flashes forward but doesn't connect with the knockup, allowing Betsy to escape.
They try for this Baron, but I don't think they can anywhere near finish that off. Gambit were already back in position. There's a wave pushing on the bottom. ROCCAT have not respected this side wave at all. Teleport available on Shen. Does want to start using it. Shock Blast to keep them off. They don't need to start this Baron. Not at all. We've already seen what can happen. However, they do have the damage to get ROCCAT's attention. Diamondprox is in the middle. He finds Steve. Twisted advance back onto Diamond now. Vander, Jankos, MrRallez in the back. GoSu Pepper, make sure they're knocked away from this one. MrRallez, they find him, but he's going to be able to Valk his way away, or rather flash his way away. Steve, can he stay alive? Steve, Diamondprox looking for him. Vander still hanging around. Amazingly, no one's down yet, but in comes the Emperor of Shurima, and that's going to be a double kill for him before being taken down. A double kill for the Azir. Shock Blast, another for the Jayce. Nukeduck, can he get away? It's a 4 for 2, but he's going to the wrong base.
Nukeduck playing Summoner's Drift right here.
Jukes! He's now got no flash though. Oh! Pepper finishes the job.
Fancy footwork from Nukeduck on Summoner's Drift, but it wasn't enough right here. Gambit eventually lock him down, close him out, have enough vision to do that.
Now they will
take an ever so slow Baron.
It's not about the damage.
Pepper, don't die.
It's about if you can do it. No,
don't do it. Don't do it. You have so much to live for.
Right, he's fine. Diamond still got his fight.
2 more seconds. Are they waiting? Okay, they waited for Shen and Forgiven to spawn. Incredibly important because you have that window, obviously. Jankos almost wasn't time to steal that. That would have been awkward.
Ooh, just a little bit. But all said and done, work. 5 members got the Baron up.
Calculato.
They have even more to work with now. And importantly, they've extended the gold lead, even though ROCCAT, at first, that fight looked like they could have taken it. We'll see it again here. It turns sour pretty fast.
Yeah, Steve's gonna dodge another couple abilities here with the twisted advance. But then Gambit realized they should just stop hitting the tank, and they focus their attention to MrRallez. He is honestly not been able to do much because he has such a hard time getting through this front line. 4-man taunt here, again, by Cabochard. Fantastic play. He goes low. Nukeduck, I like this move right here. He goes in, gets Cabo. That's Forgiven. Tries to prevent Diamondprox from getting to him, but then yeah, he's stuck and his team's already died. They started fighting without him present because they had to. They did that panic Baron. I feel that was a bit of a mistake. You can't do Barons without proper vision. Just ask SK Gaming. They know all about that one.
We did, however, learn Nukeduck is one hell of a fancy driver. He can maybe save ROCCAT's bacon in this game. Will be on a 10,000 gold deficit for this team as they try to defend against the Baron of Gambit Gaming. Steve has found Cabochard, or is it the other way around? Taunting on him. Purple Blades as well. Now
rotation mid though.
Yep, they will be there. GoSu Pepper headbutts into a minion. And they will be able to take down this tower. Stand united. The Shen's coming in. They're going all in on this inhibitor. They will be able to take it down. Steve couldn't even get into his own base there trying to flank.
Yeah, I like what Gambit's doing. Whereas previously they were knocking on that tower too long and realizing they're fighting against too much wave clear. They just buy some time until ROCCAT actually buys into the story tale that Gambit's actually staying at the tower. Suddenly, 1 or 2 members show up in a different lane. Shen can ulti out, teleport.
Uh-oh, Steve, pinball, back and forth, the tree, they chop him down. Betsy will get a kill on that one. Vander goes down as well, double kill for the Jayce, 7-1 and 6 on this game. Gambit Gaming looking to push in, maybe for the win here.
Yeah, and the Blade of the Ruin King coming here, in addition to the last Whisper, as we see Cabochard get knocked up there. That's the power spikes Gambits are looking for. To combine with that Baron, they can finally push down and poke down his members, but watch out for Nukeduck. He still has a lot of damage.
Have to be careful now. Teleport down to the bottom. Cabochard is going to hit his side push on once again. Diamondprox just tanking up this turret in the top. The split attention ROCCAT cannot react to. They don't have enough members up right now. They're going to lose one inhibitor turret, another inhibitor turret, another inhibitor, and maybe the last inhibitor. No one's responding to this Shen. ROCCAT, they can't stop it.
Yeah, their boat is sinking right now, and they just have all hands on deck, but it's not enough right now for ROCCAT. And honestly, this is the most efficient Gambit I've seen. I still recall that one game where they played against Copenhagen Wolves, and I believe the sides were mirrored. Gambit was the purple team back then. So inefficient at closing. Had no idea what they were doing, but this time...
Very different.
Crisp. Good to see that. Sean's, great work.
It's definitely giving the team something to be hopeful for here, and the rest of the team doing their work as well. 38 minutes in the game. Gambit have definitely pulled ahead. Didn't really matter that the early game they weren't able to get much done. It all started turning around, and Gambit have not let go of the lead ever since. All 3 inhibitors down in ROCCAT's base. And ROCCAT themselves are scrambling yet again to keep defending.
Yeah, now Gambit just need to use that last Whisper Power Spike while they can still penetrate enough armor. That Blade of the Rune King here on Ezreal as well. Percent damage is what they need against these tanks. But then such a beefy front line. Lock of the Iron Solari on Diamondprox, one of the few that we've seen, touched on it earlier. So efficient, and ROCCAT just has too little damage right now.
Just can't get it done. Steve is going to continue taking it up, but Gambit don't need to kill him. They just need to keep them busy while the minions come in. True Shot Barrage melts through Nukeduck's health bar. The rest of the team still trying to finish off the tower. They will be able to take it down, and now only one Nexus turret remains between Gambit Gaming in this game, and the Nexus sitting there. Oh boy, this could be the end of it all for ROCCAT. The miraculous defense, can they hold in line? They may be able to, but ROCCAT, Jankos is going down. Steve, he's gonna try to stay alive, flashes back to his base. The last Nexus turret is down. Vander tries to distract, but there's just too much here, and Gambit Gaming will even the head-to-head in summer.
Slow and steady wins the race. Slow and steady kills the base. Gambit Gaming come out on top, but honestly, handed over the victory a tiny bit by ROCCAT. Monumental screw up. They were in prime position in this game, but good tenacity from Gambit. Play from behind, and it's honestly, see this more and more and more in the European LCS. First few weeks were incredibly snowbally. Lead at 10 meant you win the game. Lead at 20, just so high chances that you are winning the game. But recently, we've seen people bite back as they've been put in the corner. Tenacious Gambit right here. Turn it around. Ace, Baron, 5 towers. Wait, Baron, 3 inhibitors. Wait, Nexus. Clean, crisp, cut.
Something that we hadn't seen too much from those lower on the table teams, and this is what is going to separate them going forward, looking for playoffs, looking to separate themselves from the rest of the teams. Gambit proved today they do have what it takes, and they do wrap up the week 2-0 against opponents in similar positions to them, and that's very, very good. You got to be happy if you're Sean's right now. You can see him smiling as he gets some hugs and handshakes to the rest of Gambit Gaming.
Gambit Gaming, they had 15 kills, I believe. Betsy involved in all of them.
Every single one. He got more of them as well. 8, 1, and 7 on this Jayce.
Diamondprox 13 out of 15, so we saw a very group-heavy Gambit. Even though they had a bit of a split push with Cabochard, he was still present for 11 out of those 15 kills, so very, very teamwork-oriented Gambit. Also, it tells the story of the game, right? Nothing was happening in the early game. Very, passive Gambit, trying to look for an opening, didn't really get it. Good exploiting, honestly, by Jankos. He saw that Jayce is very low mobility. Once he uses that gate, that's his escape tool. He doesn't have that gate anymore. You force his flash, and then you return gank him, try and get his tower, get a dragon. ROCCAT got ahead that way, but Gambit stopped the bleeding just in time.
Very, very true. We'll take a look at the lineups once again, refresh your guys' memory here. Very, very quick pickup on that Jayce for Betsy, and that definitely was a big, big factor in their win.
Yeah, we kept talking about itemization, how Diamondprox, honestly, with that Lock of the Iron Solari, he needed that, because if you look at Azir, if you look at Corki, Nautilus, Maokai, so much magic damage. And you help your teammates with that as well, because you allow them to build full-on offensively, especially when you're playing these lower threat compositions. Your carries can't afford to build magic resistance on their own merit because they need all their gold for damage, because you're playing against so many tanks, it's incredibly hard. And later we saw the damage manifest in Forgiven, for example. Once he got that last Whisper and that Blade of the Ruined King completed, he could actually tear through Steve fairly well, and they started rolling, and obviously Baron buffs help in that regard. Yeah,
he stayed, Forgiven not only stayed safe, but also was able to make big plays. And I mean, I called him the master of farming game. He ended it with like 421 farm. Head and shoulders above everyone else because he was first on it, but he still made sure he got in the action. He still made sure he made the plays. No, his true shots didn't hurt quite as much as Pepineros have. Nonetheless, he did his job.
Yeah, and I'm taking a look here at the damage graphs. Betsy, by far the most damage. Excuse my accidental meme right here. And then Forgiven in second, 30k. Well ahead of still of Nukeduck, he was on 24k. So ROCCAT, yeah, just got out-damaged and they couldn't deal with it anymore. Their tanks had enough base damages on the Gragas, on the Shen to win this game. And then definitely, if we talk about Shen, we have to talk about Cabochard. 4-man taunt, 3-man taunt, flash in, teleport, ulti. He was the glue for me that tied this Gambit lineup together. And he facilitated those fights. Him and Diamondprox definitely showed up. But overall, good team performance by Gambit.
Yeah, it took him a little bit. Definitely took them a little bit of time, but when they came together, they came together. It's kind of like the new Gragas barrels. You got to wait a little bit, but then when they blow, they do a lot more. So for now, though, we're going to send it analyst desk side to look into